Good morning, David.
Good morning, Les. How you doing?
Good, good. This morning had a little trouble with my Zoom.
You
Just
had me
kept
a
on.
little. You had me a little activated this morning.
I did. I apologize. Yeah, my
All
Zoom
right.
wasn't just working. So
Well, and plus, I have abandonment issues. So is he?
David,
Is he not?
David, what issues do you not have?
Well, that's right. I mean, you should feel good about this.
I do. That's why I hang out with you, David. So.
I'm like this freaking gold mine of opportunities for you to practice your skills. So
Absolutely, absolutely.
anyway, a more serious note, this is Dynamic Healing Moments. And I did write a website post this weekend called Dynamic Healing. And Les and I, amongst a group of people, are very serious about bringing this out into the public domain because symptoms are created by the interaction between your environment and your stress. I mean, your stresses and your coping skills. And we've talked about getting rid of the words anxiety and anger and using the words activated and hyperactivated. And then there's a term today we're going to use is dysregulated. And I'm going to let my guru explain to you what So you dysregulated me this morning. You get to explain to the group what dysregulated is. Thank you very much.
When in doubt, just blame and project. Yes, good coping skills.
Sorry, that was a lesson in my miss. What was that again?
When in doubt, just blame and project.
Oh, good one. I like that. That's one of your better lessons. I like it.
Yes.
Actually, have you heard about the ABCs of being a surgeon?
Oh boy, here we go. Go ahead, please.
Accuse, blame, and criticize. But there's a D, there's denial. So
Gotcha.
got it.
Well, I'll tell you this. One thing is, one of the things we want the audience members to know is this, is when we are overactivated and we stay overactivated, your nervous system, which is your brain and body, shifts into this hypervigilance and the chronicity of it. So again, what are we talking about? It's when we tend to over-interpret things and we have no down regulation. So we don't take time for ourselves. When you have physical pain, you have very little coping skills. And what tends to happen is that we tend to kind of shift and retrain the nervous system. How? We actually shift it into this overactive, hypervigilant, and then it shifts into dysregulation. Dysregulation is when we tend to, with our senses, using David's words, is when we have this input that comes, the data that comes in, is we tend to actually end up creating more havoc inside of us. Our thoughts, emotions, our physical pain all becomes amplified. And David talks a lot about this, and other folks that we hang out with. Basically, is this is where chronic medical conditions come about. When we are constantly in survival mode, we are basically now at this point of dysregulation. Dysregulation is the seed of a lot of medical conditions and chronic pain especially. So with that said, when we are dysregulated, what tends to happen is that we tend to have everything, we read cues of danger, it tends to be over amplified, and it's difficult to read cues of safety because your nervous system is all focused on just survival mode. And in a few minutes, we'll talk about the output, like what are some things you can definitely do to down regulate it. And it's going to be irritating and maybe not for you, but David, we talk a lot about different ways to cope and retrain the nervous system. What do you do to down regulate when things are just overwhelming?
Well, remember, we're trying to get rid of the word even mind body because it's just a unit. So the nerve is your body responding to the environment, including your brain and consciousness. So everything responds as a unit, right? So and then we're doing a workshop, by the way, in August and also November through the Open Center, talking about the inner child and trying to reconnect with that. And when you were a kid, a lot of us were traumatized. In fact, I still think all of us are traumatized at some level. I mean, being a kid is not so easy. So in general, but there's a playful part of every human being that's there. And Les and I are going to do a workshop, half a day in August and November, trying to reconnect with that inner part of who you are. But when you were a kid, a lot of things were dangerous. And so as an adult, when things aren't dangerous, you still interpret it the same way, right?
Yeah, that's exactly. I love what you just said. How we basically have the same coping skill that we did sometimes as kids. When
Right.
we become so over active and we don't day to day, we don't have this rest and recuperation period. When we don't intentionally have a morning routine, when we don't intentionally stop to kind of slow down to actually pay attention to cues of safety, what happens is we're just training the nervous system for a different kind of output. Then the output could be dangerous. So what we want to basically do is change that output. And as
Right.
David says, what's the best way to regulate your system is to reduce the stress chemicals, to down regulate. And David, I think you hit a very key point which we want to emphasize. Very often when we're overwhelmed, we go back to old unhelpful habits of coping. And sometimes, like David was kidding, but really meant the ABCs of being a surgeon, the denial part, the D part. When we're so overwhelmed, we basically will have very little compassion. We cannot enter the portal of compassion because we're in sympathetic, we're in the survival mode. And what David and I are talking about this is David also emphasized this, is to be aware, to get back in the driver's seat of the brain.
Well, one of the biggest things that my guru, Dr. Arya, has taught me is about this whole. I mean, I used to think I'm a surgeon, okay? Just cut it open and be done with it. Just fix it, right? I mean, I am that person still. So the idea that this whole thing is based in body's physiology is from medical school, actually high school. This is not rocket science. So somehow we overlook that with all the complexity of medicine. But the bottom line is, if you're in a fight or flight mode, you're supposed to have it to survive, but you're not supposed to stay in that mode. So
Right.
I think, there's a lot of, there's the input, the nervous system, and the output. And so I think today it'd be nice to go back and review, say, 2 or 3 of your techniques. Because I used to think that mindfulness, meditation, breathing was all just crazy stuff. Even acupuncture, all the soft touch stuff was crazy stuff that actually stimulates the vagus nerve, which actually is anti-inflammatory and down-regulates things. So no matter what happens, for today's hints, Dr. Arya, could you run me through a couple down-regulated?
Yeah.
Since you got me upregulated to start, I need to get down-regulated. Thank you for that opportunity.
Well, I like acronyms, much like surgeons. They often have lots of acronyms and stuff they memorize. But for us, how about we use something called 365?
Okay.
And so basically, 3 times a day, again, we're trying to shift and retune the nervous system. If you want to invest in something to get that return, you do have to kind of spend time. So just 5 minutes out of your whole day, if you can just spend 5 minutes. So think of the number 365. 3 times a day, if you could breathe at least 6 breaths per minute for 5 minutes. And so what does that look like? If you actually use your fingers as you breathe in, you lift up your thumb, you can have your hands. So David, go ahead, we'll just run through maybe just 2 of our fingers, just for time's sake here.
Okay.
So if you just kind of focus on, choose a hand, left hand or right hand, place it on your lap or the desk. This is for the audience too. And I'm just going to raise my hand so you can see it as if this is my desk.
Okay.
So when you focus on it, what I want you to do is be able to, when you breathe in, lift the thumb up, you breathe in. And then as you breathe out, slowly lower that finger down and then move on to the next finger. As you breathe out, just slowly lower that finger down. And then you just kind of basically continue on until you get to your pinky. When you do that, you'll breathe about 5 to 6 breaths per minute. And that really changes the output of how you feel and how you interact with the environment. And that helps you enter into a portal of self-compassion and compassion for others.
I read that research paper on that. I read that research paper on the breathing technique, and it doesn't have to be intentional. It doesn't have to be special. It just has to be less than 10 per minute, because we normally breathe about 15 to 16 per minute. Just slow breathing stimulates the vagus nerve, which is powerfully anti-inflammatory. You're changing your body's physiology. So again, from a surgeon standpoint, it's mind-boggling because I thought this whole psychological thing was sort of imaginary, but it's all about regulating your body's chemistry. So, okay, I will, I'm almost re-regulated here.
Yeah. David, I was thinking about you this morning. I'm all like, this guy, and David has so many projects going on and this and that and blogging. this guy's like Superman on the online circuit here. So, but David, I was thinking about you is you do so much, and I hope that you and others, and when I get off camera here, I'll be practicing my stuff. But I think it's really important for us to do this is to be able to get the return, you do need to invest in yourself, and you are worth it. And I do hope that you do take time, 5 minutes, 3 times a day.
Right.
You will really see wonders.
So the theme of the day is be nice to yourself.
Yes, and less, David.
All right, I'm laughing at your attempts to be funny. Someday you'll be as funny as I am.
I believe so, David.
Okay, so here's the thing. Seriously, Les has a process called remedypain.co. And again, teaches lots of techniques, has a nice course. I have something called the docjourney.com, which again is a little bit different angle on it, but still similar concepts. And we're excited about this. And we see so much, I mean, it's really satisfying to see somebody in severe pain without hope, not only regain hope, but they actually thrive at a level you cannot imagine. So that's what keeps both of us going at the level we do. And we're excited about it. And we really want you to join us in dynamic healing. So have a great day.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Have a great day.